You can get some PRN medication, or you can go to the isolation room. It's all up to you. So what's it gonna be?
Just bring me your damn pills.
All right, I'll be right back.
Psychosis. The term psychosis was coined in 1841, and it was used by a German physician and author Carl Friedrich Kanset within their psychiatric literature. Kanset oftentimes used the word as a synonym for psychic neurosis and to emphasize the psychic manifestation of brain disease. 4 years later, in 1845, a poet and philosopher by the name Baron Ernest von, I'm gonna stop it there because I don't know how to say their name, was the first to use the word in such a way that was meant to describe the psychopathy or mental handicap or other serious mental disorders. The word psychosis comes from the Greek words psyche, meaning soul, and osis, meaning abnormal condition. In the 19th century, the word was often used as a synonym for madness. Within the game of Good Boy, you play as a child who very well may be undergoing psychosis. Reality begins to warp, walls begin to disappear, and the child begins seeing nothing but the color of bloodshot red. The only question is, what triggered this development, and is it truly supernatural? Or is it all in the boy's head? Even before the game starts, we are introduced to a sound, a static sound. It's my birthday today. A young boy, who from this moment further is now called Timmy, awakes and gets out of bed. Within this room, we learn that Timmy has a cat named Mr. Mittens and seems to be very close to his grandmother, as she comes to read us stories every single night and even gifted Timmy their very own toy box. Once leaving the room, we have a bright and angelic door to the left and a door that leads straight to hell on the right. Yeah, nah, I'm good. Timmy goes to the left and is met face to face with his mother. There's my sleepy birthday boy. Got all tuckered out playing with the cats this morning, didn't you? Why don't you stay here and play while I go finish your special birthday dinner? I'll call you when it's done. She leaves us to our own devices. Looking around the room again, we have another cat named Mr. Twinkletoes. Cute. Also, Timmy seems to have a very good relationship with his mother because he drew the two of them holding hands, and finally, we meet the grandmother. It's just a drawing of her though, but the drawing is full of red, and the grandma herself almost looks dead, like she's hanging limp on something. Timmy, when looking at the photo, says that this is his grandmother, ... Could the grandmother already be dead? Is that why it sounds more somberful? While looking around the room, his mother from the other room yells for us to go get the grandma, so I guess she isn't really dead. Timmy heads to the red room, and within we meet the grandmother. Who is it? Oh my. It's my good boy. My good boy. It's your birthday today, isn't it? You know how much Grandma loves your birthday. I've left you a present in the hall. My good boy, go and get it. Oh, I wonder what she got for us. Oh. That's a knife, which isn't very kid-friendly, like, at all. Now, at this point, Good Boy has 3 endings that you are able to get. And of course, each ending you get pulls back the curtain just a little bit. So we'll start with ending 1, the Massacre ending. Once little Timmy picks up the knife, you are able to hear a faint heartbeat. As the screen gets slightly more red, bloodstains guide the way to the first victim of this massacre, Mr. Mittens. Timmy wastes no time and stabs the cat to death. On to the next one. He enters the living room and begins to stab Mr. Twinkletoes to death as well. The screen only becoming redder and redder, and the heartbeat becoming much more clear. Timmy walks into the dining room as his special dinner is laid out for him, and the candles are waiting to be blown out. At this point, Timmy has forgotten about his birthday entirely. When looking at the calendar at this point, all he says is, "More blood." The mother asks us where Grandma is and what we're carrying. Unfortunately for her, Timmy closes the distance and also stabs her as well, leaving her to bleed out in a puddle of her own blood. "Good boy. Now, come to me." Timmy slowly makes his way back to his grandmother's room. "My good boy, you have done so well. But our master, his heart requires much more blood, and I will bring us more souls, more blood." "911, what is your emergency?" "Please help. There's a killer who has broken into our home. We live on 123 Cherry Street. Please, hurry." So that's a game. Obviously we are just at ending 1 and out of 3, so there's still a lot of things to talk about, but I just kind of wanted to stop the video for a little bit because I feel like I can yap, but I would like to try to pinpoint some questions to direct your thought process in a way that could be very beneficial. So firstly, the word good boy, right? It's obviously it's the title of the game, and then it's used very often throughout the game. It's used by mainly your mother and your grandmother, and I feel like the two of them share a contrast, right? The grandmother's in a deep, dark, red room all alone, meanwhile the mother is in a very bright and angelic room, right? Somewhere that's very vibrant. And I believe they do that to show compassion versus obsession, and I think that's just a cool little contrast there, and I wonder what they're going to build that up to be. Also, the grandmother was talking about master. Who the hell is the master? I don't know if it's like a symbolic representation of like your emotions, you know, mental disorders or what have you is like ruling over your life, so then it's technically your master. I don't know if that's what this is like leaning towards, but it's like I'm taking it at face value, and if this gets supernatural then it's definitely like an overarching devil demon figure, but if they never show it, then I'm gonna just lean toward to being a symbolic representation of something. And then I wrote something. Lastly, what's the deal with the ending? Colors and fonts in this game are quite important. The color red is associated with the grandmother. The drawing of her is red. Her room is red. She herself is literally red, and the knife she gives you is red. Going even further, when going to the two cats and the mother, right before doing it, the words say, "Do it," in deep red. What seemed to be Timmy saying it could really just mean the influence of the grandmother is within that boy, making that last scene very interesting, because each time the light would flicker, the grandmother would phase in and out of existence. But what I find strange is that when the light landed on red, she would disappear. However, when she would remain was when it was blue. What could they be hinting towards? You would think that red is the grandmother's domain, that red is where she should be zoning in. So why was it that she would only disappear within the red if she was real, or if she wasn't real? So I'm thinking that I'm leaning towards it being a continuity error. I have no clue, but let's get into the second ending. Ending 2, Possession. We are in need of some more answers, so let's go collect the other two endings. The second ending is rather quick. Instead of killing the cats and your mother, instead, Timmy has the option to go back to the grandmother's room and put an end to her reign. However, when doing so, do you think this was over? You merely struck down the puppet, not its master. And now I need a new puppet. Who was the master of puppeteering? And look at the wires controlling our main character. It's red. So red doesn't describe the grandmother, but instead shows everyone who is infected by the master. For example, the knife is red due to it being the instrument that gathers the blood. The grandmother is red because she was infected by the master. And finally, when becoming the next puppet for the master, Timmy's eyes glow a red hue. Ending 3, Sacrifice. Again, it's our birthday. However, this time the toy chest that was gifted to us by our grandmother is now open, showing its red eyes. Could this be the master? Speeding through the game as usual, instead of killing the cats, your mother, or your grandmother, Timmy instead goes to stab the toy chest. The screen goes red, then it goes black as Timmy awakes in a room. Tables have been flipped and lamps are on the floor. However, a note lies lonely on a table, stating, "Clever boy, let's play." Things have changed, the walls have tilted, the doors are off its hinges. The home truly becomes surreal as Timmy falls through the home until falling into a space filled with red eyes. Then boom, Timmy ends up in a room filled with crosshatches. The static is as loud as ever. Timmy moves through the home and comes to a door with some demon symbols on it. Within the room, mannequins or dolls are hung up from the ceiling. A picture can be seen at the end of the room. Her name's Mindy. Mindy was the first, She loved puppets, and her favorite color was yellow. She trusted me to keep the puppets safe. One day, her puppets spoke, not loud, but in whispers of the master and how he needs blood. Then Mindy heard it, the beating of his heart. Moving forward, Timmy would come across a voided room with blue and red doors lined on each side. Entering the blue door, we learn of the second child, Billy. Billy was the second one to feed me. He was different from the other kids. Billy did not keep toys in me, but books about biology. His favorite color was blue. Billy loved bugs, inspecting them, catching them. I too grew a fondness as well, especially spiders. One day, Billy heard whispers from his toy box and opened to inspect it. There sat a tarantula, which told Billy whispers of the master and the blood he needs. Then he heard it, the heartbeat. It's a newspaper with the headline, "Family Found, Dead from Spider Infestation." Obtaining the blue key, Timmy goes to the voided room to lift the chain ever so slightly onto the red door. The red door leads to Timmy's home. However, it's caped in an ominous shadow. Then there was her. She bought me for you, but you never put your toys in me. You left them out, and she was the one to put them in me. Till one day, I whispered to her. With the red key, Timmy lifts the chain even more until it reveals a heart. The beating sound has become louder than ever, and with the knife, Timmy would go to stab the heart with said knife. And like that, it was over. The demon in the box was slain. Even though I'm still trapped here in the box, I hope I did the right thing. I hope. I hope I was a good boy. What the hell was that ending? We learned many things in the third act. We learned the source of the evil was the toy chest, which makes sense considering it was given to us by our grandmother. We know that there were other victims, Mindy and Billy. They also heard the whispers and proceeded to gain blood. Just as when Timmy went to pick up the knife, that's when he began to hear the heartbeat, the whispers, the duets. And we also know that the reason Timmy was able to have such free will and be a quote-unquote clever boy was because he never used the toy box in the first place, which made the grandmother have to pick up after him, only to become infected herself. Now, I've got two really good guesses of what's really going on thus far. One that will be taking all of the evidence throughout the game into consideration, and the other will be a headcanon that I believe tells a beautifully symbolic story. Before the game's events, there was blood, lots of it, and before that, there was nothing. Nothing but the void and the master. All the master knew was blood and became infatuated with it. Throughout an undetermined amount of time, the master would find itself shackled within a toy chest. He yearned for more blood, but was powerless to get it himself. Mindy and Billy were the first to suffer the fate of blood. Mindy loved painting and loved dolls. Mindy loved painting and she loved dolls. And when she went to store within the toy chest, giving the master the chance to whisper into the girl's mind, causing her to frenzy and hang everyone in that house as she represented in her room filled with painted dolls. Billy was the next victim. However, he was a strange kid. He didn't play with toys. He would instead go and traverse the outside world and play with all forms of bugs and insects. The master had no way of whispering to the boy to get him the more blood that he so desired, until a tarantula found its way into the toy chest, finally allowing the master to whisper into the boy's mind. And then the next day, it was reported that the entire family was killed due to a spider infestation, largely implied to be the master's doing. But this is where things get weird and somewhat sad. Timmy's home. Timmy, his mother, 2 cats, and grandmother were all very, very close and loving. Timmy was a lot like Billy, and he was a messy kid. So when one day the grandmother came and bought Timmy a toy chest to encourage his cleaning habits, it was a thoughtful gift with troubling consequences. The toy chest, root of all evil, feeder of blood. However, Timmy never used that toy chest, not even once, leaving his toys all around until the grandmother would pick up after him. She began to hear whispers. She began to hear the heartbeat. Instead of going into a frenzy like the others, it seems like the master wants kids to do the killing, and so it used the grandmother as a puppet to influence the boy into killing the cats, his mother. But Timmy is a good boy and would go to sacrifice themselves to slay the demon in the toy chest for good, being locked in there forever and ever. Or the heart-stabbing scene could have been symbolic for Timmy taking his own life due to having troubles differentiating what was real and what was fake. Now, let's be real. What I said above is probably the most plausible. Taking everything at face value is probably the best thing to do with these type of games. But of course, god damn it, I cannot help myself. My second idea is, what if all of this was a metaphor or a symbolic representation on those who suffer with psychosis? Let's start from the beginning. Have you ever heard of the term trigger word? Trigger words and phrases are those that cause the listener to feel a strong emotion because of the previous experiences. While the phrase is used in a number of different ways, we're using it here, as many people do now, to refer to words or phrases that trigger memories and emotions from traumatic experiences. Now, what's a phrase that we hear often in this game? Well, first off, the game itself is literally called Good Boy. The mother calls us Good Boy. The grandmother calls us Good Boy. And finally, Timmy himself calls himself a good boy at the end of Ending 3. It's my belief that Timmy had gone into a frenzy after hearing his mother call him a good boy, his trigger phrase, because as soon as she called him this, and to go get grandma, reality starts to warp as the entire room becomes voided of light and just appears, and the grandmother begins using the same phrases, however very obsessively, making me believe that the traumatic experience that Timmy had experienced was sourced from his grandmother. The duets is no master, but the voice of his grandmother echoing in the boy's head. I mean, the colors for the fonts even match up. And the entire thing with the Ending 3 was simply all in his head. Psychosis patients have been thoroughly studied in recent years, and with the research and knowledge we know now, most people would describe the experiences as confusing and disturbing. Some symptoms may include hallucinations, seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, or even tasting things that aren't real, such as hearing voices or seeing things that aren't there, delusions, having strong beliefs that aren't shared by others, such as believing that people are trying to harm them, or they've been receiving special messages from the television, disordered thinking and speaking, thoughts and ideas coming very quickly, which can make the speech fast and confusing, changed feelings, restlessness, paranoia, and finally, visual disturbances, which is incoherent or nonsense speech. And the stabbing of the heart at the very end could be Timmy's mind finally putting these thoughts to rest. For now. Now, After that amazing closing of a video, I'm sure you can picture my face when I saw a manly badass hero video recommendation of Good Boy 2. Good Boy 2, apparently a sequel that takes place a couple of years after the events of the first game, which already throws a wrench into almost everything that I have just said. If this happens 2 years later, ending 1 can't be canon considering he killed his mother, and ending 2 seems to be outreached because I'm sure the master would have killed the entire house for blood, and ending 3, well, Timmy's supposed to be dead or either locked into a chest for life, right? So what's going on here? Well, let's find out. Come on, honey. Open your eyes. You have to go to this appointment. I know it's your birthday, but just be a good boy, and when I pick you up, we'll go home and you can have all the cake you can ever want. Mom told me to go see the doctor. It's my first appointment, so I can't miss it. And with that, our mother has left us at the doctor's office and didn't even walk us in or let alone paid for the visit, so we're off to a great start. While looking around outside, we come across a drawing of Timmy. Hey, that's my name. But looking at the picture closer, it seems most of the kids are covered in blood, while a blue and yellow figure can be seen standing off to the sides. The same color as Mindy and Billy. Once entering the doctor's office, we have to check ourselves in. Thanks, Mom. And while looking around the room, mainly you are able to collect coins and feed them to a Maneki Nico? I think that's how you pronounce that. And it'll tell you secrets. He doesn't really tell you much, I'm not gonna lie. But we do speak to Timmy, the boy in the picture who also seems to be wearing a shirt of Mr. Twinkletoes or Mr. Mittens. We go to speak to him and he's lonely because all of his friends have gone but never came back out. But what's weird is that Timmy and I share the same birthday. Before we could talk any longer, he is called into the back room. Oh, and we touch the toy chest and then it just glitches out of existence. I mean, like it was never there. So that's awesome. Soon it's our turn to go, and it's horrifying as I imagined. A single chair in the middle of a room filled with surgical supplies. Then we meet the doctor, Mr. Smiley. He has to leave the room for a bit to fetch a syringe, and at that moment, Timmy helps us escape through the vents, but his ass gets caught as well as he bleeds to death on a surgical table. Nigga, I am outies. It's my goddamn birthday too. The assistant becomes a freaky hand monster and chases us while black hands help slow us down. Even though you are able to get away, we are face to face with Smiley as he succeeds in getting our blood. Shit. So, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't gather much from this game. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't understand anything that happened. I see that there's a bunch of nods, and I'm not sure if the sequel is aimed to actually continue a coherent story, or if it's just a second game with similar aesthetics and similar characters, but really just paying homage to the first thing in particular. The reason I say this is because the mom looks the same, but as I said, the mom should be dead or the child should be locked away forever and ever. So it's like, that's just like paying homage to the mother. And then we have the color of blue and yellow with Mindy and Billy, and it never really comes back to it. It's just over and done. Timmy, the cats, Mr. Mittens. I feel like there's a bunch of things that are being placed right in front of me, and yet it really holds no weight to the end of it. And obviously the master, the blood, and all that other junk. Don't understand, don't get it, but that's why we're here. So let's get the other two endings and see if it has anything else to offer. Things kick off very differently compared to how Good Boy 1 handled the different endings. From the jump, we have already seen a major change. Everything is now lacking in color and the structures are covered in blood. And oh yeah, we have ourselves just staring at us, very welcoming. Mr. Mitten tells us some ominous secrets such as it's either you or him. And then just like that, we are called into the back room. Mr. Smiley is much more transparent this time around, covered head to toe in blood, and just straight up tells us that, quote unquote, we know what must be done. But of course, he misplaces his surgical stuff. Again, huh? I've been meaning to point this out, but does the master or those who infected with the master know it's looping or something? It happened during the ending 3 route in the first game, where if you talk to the toy chest beforehand, he would say, "What's the matter? It seems like you've done this before," or something to that degree. I'm too lazy to really pinpoint word from word, but I do remember that being a case. And now the doctor is out and forgetting all this syringe like he remembers the first time. So it's either that we, the player, are looping, or we're witnessing different victims go through the same things, and some may be more clever than the others and things happen. Maybe each ending is a different child. We don't know. While the doctor is out, the master begins to speak to us and gifts us with our very own knife. So when the doctor gets back into the room, he is terrified and confused as to how we even got our hands on a knife. After slicing many times, he finally reaches his boiling point. Why? It was supposed to be me. It was supposed to be me. Master, why have you forsaken me? No, I refuse. The master chose me. I will not let you take this from me, little lamb. His heart beats within me. Come here, my good boy. A final battle commences. The doctor and the fake Timmy fight to the death in a voided room with eyes watching from above. The heart beats as intense as ever, and finally fake Timmy wins, becoming the next puppet for the master to use. Echoing that secret Mr. Mittens gave us, it's either you or him. He definitely was talking about who was going to become the next puppet for whoever won this battle. Okay, see, look. I still didn't understand any questions. None of my questions were answered. So let me just throw out these answers that I'm looking for, okay? So, who's the master? Okay, wasn't he killed last game? Who are we playing as? Aren't we supposed to be dead, trapped, or whatever? What's going on with that? Why is our mother still alive? And didn't we kill her last game? And many more questions and no answers. But still, we do have just one more ending, so maybe, just maybe, this ending is going to clear up all of the questions that I have. So let's get into it. To start with, our mother doesn't even drop us off. She's nowhere. The fish are dead, there's blood everywhere, and things are floating. Shit is getting weird. Within the floating room, we see a drawing of Timmy and the master, and it seems he's become the new target and the next puppet in line. Going into the back room, we see yet another drawing, this time with all the children plus Timmy, Mindy, Billy, and me, collecting the toy chest key in the operating room and getting jump scared by ourselves, I think. We enter the toy chest as a bloody text states, "We've all been waiting for you." Then inside the chest we see this. Who dare approaches the vessel? I'm warning you, turn back now or rest the face of something worse than death.
Is this nigga serious?
Nigga, what? I don't even know, but one of the cats gives us a knife and then we go to make our leave. Then we come across a broken heart and we are ordered to mend the broken heart. During this time, a mysterious voice speaks to us, telling us how we shouldn't be here and that even though we are strong, Master will consume everything and make it his. The shadow tells us one last thing. He'll take everything away, just as he did with me. Then we are shown the grave of Mr. Twinkletoes. So maybe we aren't playing as the same protagonist as the first game, and maybe the first game's ending one may be the ending, considering that's when the cats were killed and when Timmy became the next puppet. The current protagonist gets into a final battle with the toy chest and wins. And just like that, he's transported back to reality and claims to have killed the toy chest for good, finally leaving the doctor's office to be greeted by his mother, calling him my birthday boy. Then it ends. I'll be completely transparent, you guys. Good Boys 2's narrative was pretty superficial, or at least I don't feel like it introduced any new ideas or the world or anything about that for the game and world of Good Boy. But I do find that the symbolic aspect of Good Boy 2 to be superb, even if it wasn't meant to be taken this way in the slightest. But I do believe Good Boy 2 follows the same narrative of Psychosis, but this grants me a perfect opportunity to clear up some things that I feel like I may have displayed. Psychosis does not need to be a violent episode. Actually, 3 out of 1,000 people who suffer from psychosis actually harm and kill others. Everything you've seen on media or everything you would read about and listen, at least for me, the only reason I know of the term psychosis is because I'm an avid person for true horror. I love listening to police reports. I love listening to mysteries, and there's been so many times where I've heard the word psychosis, and whenever I hear psychosis, I hear about someone else dying. For example, I've already talked about it, but claustrophobia, I believe when it was on the bus, and the guy went in a state of psychosis and just began stabbing the other passenger because he believed that the aliens had told him to do so. So things like that, psychosis. But really, in reality, there is a 3 out of 1,000 chance that a patient will be violent. Good Boy 2 is both very confusing and quite disturbing, and I think this is by design. Those who suffer with psychosis oftentimes describe their experiences that way. disturbing, and confusing. Within Good Boy 2, I do believe we are playing an entirely different character, and with that, people have entirely different reactions to similar situations. In Good Boy 1, it was all about trigger words, while Good Boy 2 is about the fear of being alone and what it can do to someone's psyche. Within Good Boy 2, our protagonist is left alone at the doctor's office. A spitting image of him is a boy named Timmy, who has also been left alone, only to find him bloodied and dying. This is to represent the worst that could happen if he was left unsupervised. The next day transpires, but I don't think it's literally the next day, but instead just another scenario of an overactive imagination in the boy's brain as he waits to get his blood drawn. His mother's face has disappeared, color has lost its vibrance, and now his only friend is now gone, but now is replaced with a shadowy figure reminding him of his imminent doom. This kid is having a panic attack, or at least beginning to go into one. Going deep into their psyche, coming to terms with their fears, coming to terms with the death of their cat, coming to terms with being alone, coming to terms with their fear and phobias, and finally mending that broken heart and defeating the source of all evil and going home to celebrate their birthday. What? You want to know what actually happened? Oh. Okay, well, Good Boy 2 is not a continuation of the first game. It's the next victim. Timmy from the last game did indeed kill his cats and his mother, then became the next puppet to do the master's bidding. However, this time around, our character did in fact beat this master. The mother looking the same? Nope, that's just similar art design. They do have different hairstyles. The mother didn't call us Good Boy, but instead called us a birthday boy. And finally, it would make sense as to why the toy chest was still around. In the end, Good Boy are about victims. Young victims. And every time they get involved with the toy chest, they go into a state of psychosis. The things they once enjoyed, the things they once brought them joy, has become something monstrous. For Mindy, they loved dolls. But in the end, that was their very undoing, was becoming a doll, becoming a puppeteer, becoming the puppet. And with Billy, he loved the outside world, he loved insects, and yet that's what brought him doom. The tarantula, spider infestations, killing the entire home. Psychosis isn't just something that people go into a blind frenzy. Psychosis has different levels, different umbrella terms, different values, different variables. And I believe Good Boy shows all forms of that. A psychosis could be a panic attack, an anxiety attack. It could be incoherent speaking. It could be incoherent thoughts. It could be believing delusions. It could be believing reality when it's not really reality. It varies. And for our character, for Good Boy 1, what plagued him, in my opinion, was the lack of love from his grandmother, but more of an obsessional love that created this frenzy, that created this broken psyche, one vulnerable for psychosis. And for Good Boy 2, I think we can all agree that being alone is something that we all fear. You can say, I'm an introvert, I'm antisocial, I love being alone, but that is just not true. You don't like being alone. The only reason why people are able to even stay away from people and feel fine is because instead of getting your fix IRL, you're getting your fix via your phone, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever social media you use, that is connection. You're not alone. You are typing on a screen, connecting with other folks. You are getting your brain to recognize that it is not alone, technically. But in this aspect, he was quite alone. His mother left him at the doctor's office all alone. He had no one else but himself. And he had to go deep into his psyche to overcome that fear, overcome that shadowy presence of those that come before him. I think that is what Good Boy truly was. A good boy isn't someone that does good things. No. A good boy is someone that shows courage, growth, development, and maturity. God! Just proclaim positivity into this room, into this world. I am getting ready to move into my new apartment, my first apartment, and I would like to pay rent. So let this video do well. Let everybody who even looked at this video be amazing. Enjoy it. Love it. Be enlightened by it. Maybe even be struck by it. I would love creativity. I would love prosperity. And I would love success. All in the same bundle, if that's not too much to ask. Thank you. Let's get it started.